STYX's security system, the Cerberus system, was initially built by Idia's father and perfected by Idia himself. Ortho explains, even when unmanned, it's got 3 brains that determine the most optimal course of action against enemies, and we learn later that any changes to the system requires biometric authentication from a member of the Shroud family. Idia is described as a genius from a young age who excels both in magic and his studies, impressing even experts with his technomatic engineering work, but during his overblot monologue, Idia says that he just wanted to be like everyone else. Idia says that he didn't own any stuffed animals as a child, as he was into more practical things, making his own simple robots, instead. It is difficult to pinpoint how supportive Idia's home environment is. He says that he got a lot of video games, board games, and more from his parents every year for his birthday so he could play in the comfort of his room, which he appreciated, but he also talks about bringing an old jammer that he made as a child with him to NRC, because if he hadn't, he knows someone would have thrown it away while he was gone. He also once got in trouble for taking apart a game console.
昔誕生日に親がくれたゲーム機をオルトとバラして怒られたんだ。すぐ組み立て直すつもりだったのに。
Ortho talks about how he, Idia, their father and mother would all go to parks, forests, and rivers together when they were very young, but after Idia withdrew they stopped going out together as a family. Idia's grandmother Idne is the former head of the Shroud family, though now it is her son, Idia's father. Lilia and Malleus explain that back in the old days people believed that overblots were disasters that occurred without warning, and the Jupiter family sealed those disasters away on the island of Woe, appointing the Watchman, a title given to his family that does not refer to a single person, to keep them from escaping, the Shroud family ancestors. Over time the Watchmen faded from history books, but the group continues their research on the disasters, now known as Blot, to this day. The reason why Idia's family was appointed to the role was because the first head of the Shroud family took the original Phantoms, the Titans, and led them in a revolt against the Jupiter family. His family's punishment was being tasked with managing the prison for the Phantoms, called Tartarus, and the Phantom Graveyard, called the Underworld. Train says that, while he was aware that Idia was the son of the famous Shroud family, he had not known of their connection to STYX, the formal organization into which the Watchman role was converted about 100 years ago. STYX is explained as an organization that operates independently on any nation or government, showing up whether a country asks them to or not, when a blot disaster strikes. Leona explains that it is known that they study magic and blot, but no one knows who they are, who works there or what their research actually entails, while it is generally assumed that they are based on the island of Woe, Idia's hometown. Vil reveals that Idia's family runs the Jupiter Conglomerate, an organization that made its fortune in offshore oil and rare metals and is the parent company of Olympus Incorporated, which seems to be the Twist universe equivalent of Google. Train says that he has never heard of the connection between the Watchman and STYX, and Lilia explains that it is because he is limited to the texts that have survived among humankind, as Fae and humans stopped intermingling a long time ago. Lilia says, there is no shortage of historical narratives that have been twisted to suit someone's agenda. Idia says that other family heads threw themselves into blot research in an attempt to eradicate phantoms and free the family from the Watchman role, but it never worked. Malleus says that he has a history book that describes the Watchman group as so ancient, they date back to the age of the gods, which Idia confirms. Idia's hair is the manifestation of the Shroud family curse, which incinerates blot the moment it accumulates. Idia explains, some people would think that a guaranteed overblot-free life is a huge blessing. But I'm sure our illustrious forebears viewed it as a curse placed on them so they'd never revolt again. Idia is unimpressed with his ancestors' attempts to overthrow the Jupiters, just to steal their spot at the top of the family, and ran an analysis on the curse, but he realized that, without any blot to burn, it would shift to burning away magic, instead.
ブロッドがない時に何を燃やすのか。
ブロッドの元である魔力だね。
そう。
Idia explains, we have to keep producing blot, negative energy, or else we'll get an MP draining debuff just from being alive. If all the curse did was burn blood as soon as it accumulated, the Shroud family would be an upbeat band of merry heroes, bursting with magical might. Idia says that his grandmother and father both supplemented their magic with technomatic devices, and were ultra-negative and depressing to be around. The way our bodies burn blood non-stop makes us suited to one thing, and one thing only, managing the underworld, the phantom graveyard, a vortex of negative energy.
だけに適合してるわけ。
最高によくできた呪いだよ。さすがは神々の時代と呼ばれた古代にかけられた呪いですわ。
Idia says that his unique magic, the ability to open and close the gate to the underworld, is also passed down in his family. Idia is temporarily promoted to acting director of STYX in Book 6 while his parents are away, questioning the head mage about NRC's overblot incidents. We get some hints from Idia about how his future was predetermined by his birth, telling Azul that he will never need a resume and telling Ortho to throw away internship invitations that he receives.
全部ゴミ箱に入れて。
でも。
いいんだ。僕はどうせどこへも行けやしないんだから。
In Book 6 he explains that he never asked for the job of acting director that was thrust upon him and his fate was set from the moment he was born. If he were to refuse the watchman role and the phantoms sealed in Tartarus ever escaped, the world would descend into chaos, which would definitely be a bad time for gaming.
そしたら気になってる漫画の続きや崖物ライブも見れなくなるし、ゲームだってやってる場合じゃなくなる。
Idia explains, I've got no IRL hopes or dreams as it is. It'd be the absolute worst if I lost my escapism on top of everything else. That, and I wouldn't have the guts to push reset on the save data my ancestors have grinded levels in for generations. In a flashback, we see 10-year-old Idia bemoan his lack of a future to his little brother, original Ortho. Idia says that Ortho might be able to become a hero one day, but he cannot, as he will have to take over the family. Ortho encourages Idia to go on adventures before he grows up, and Idia decides he wants to try going outside, inviting original Ortho along with him. Idia shuts down STYX's security system, inadvertently releasing a creature that kills his brother. Idia then withdraws for 2 years, which he spends building Robot Ortho. In addition to Tartarus and Cerberus, STYX also has the river Lethe, a system that can erase STYX from anyone's memories, and from any data. There's no point even thinking about making friends with people on the outside. After all, sooner or later, they wouldn't remember it happened. At the end of Book 6, Ortho deletes the river Lethe's configuration program, which Idia decides to leave to his parents to sort out, while he gets left with a group of classmates that remember everything that happened to them. Idia realizes, that's normal.
ここで起こったこともくだらない約束もそれが普通なんだ。